Greetings, it's your brother Dr. Toko Basad Bay here once again to give you a greater lesson on this lesson book that I put out there for humanity. Question one would be why the lesson book? You know, what's the purpose of that? What's the importance of lesson book one? Well, right now we know that most people use only about 5 to 10% of their brain power in their everyday life, and in order for us to grow as humans or as people, we have to do better than that. So as a scientist, the question would be, okay, well, how do we make that happen? You know, the scientific process talks about you have an issue, you observe the issue, you come up with a hypothesis as far as how to solve the problem. You put those into practical work in your experimentation, and from that experimentation you get feedback or you get data. From that data you interpret the data, and then you come up with a conclusion and you disseminate that information. So that's what we're doing right now with the scientific process. The problem is we don't use enough of our brain. The solution, my theory, would be to incorporate more right brain exercises in our everyday life, because society in itself is based on left brain thought pattern. That's writing, you know, words and things like that, stuff where you sit down and focus your energy. It has nothing to do with the creative essence or creative side or the right brain. So that's where we at. Okay, well, how do we make that happen? This is the experiment, or this is what we are using to base our scientific information and the lesson on. Why do we need this? Let me go to my notes real quick. Okay, our brains work in a certain way. Before there was ever words, you know, images are how we view and how we still continue to view the universe and what we see. When you look at a person or you think of a person, you don't think of them in the terms of a word. You think of their image, their frame, or it could be anything, not just a person, a building, whatever. It may be titled something with words, but the image is always what comes into the brain. So it's impertinent that we look at it that's the natural way that our brains work, is turning even words back into images so that we can decipher and make meaning out of them. Because that's what you do when you read. You read a word, and in your brain you take that word and turn it back into an image. And from the image, there you have a concept or idea of what's being communicated. So we know that symbols are as old as us, as mankind, and that we have to use that in our collective works of both sides of the brain. While we have symbols that represent, everything, whether it's a sign for choking, stop, go, left turn, right turn, handicap, male, woman. There's symbols that represent everything. But for some reason, we have a society full of symbols, but the whole symbolistic understanding or lesson is not propagated, it's not expressed. And why is that? It's not really expressed unless you're a part of a secret society. That's usually where the symbol gets into. People get into studying symbolism, but there must be some reasoning behind that. This lesson book brings to the forefront of how we imagery, or what we see or what we think about that's in the image creates our reality and creates the universe that we live in. These symbols are reference points for us to guide us to the destination that we wish to get to as an individual and as a community and as a people. So the lesson book is, this is not the full lesson book, this is just a part of it. Most of you guys, if you're watching it, you've seen the lesson book and all the symbols, 25 images that are in that. But we're going to start this being the first one with the basic foundation, because the foundation is what you need first before you can get into the understanding of the concept itself. So you need a basic foundation understanding. So I'm going to start you with the basic foundation, which is this pattern here. It's the pattern that I'm using is called a mandala. That's M-A-N-D-A-L-A. A mandala. A mandala. Before we get into the rest of the symbols, I'll explain that or give you the definition of what a mandala is. Mandala is Sanskrit word that means circle. These concentric designs have spiritual and ritual significance. In spiritual traditions, mandalas may be employed for focusing attention of aspirants and adepts, as a spiritual teaching tool for establishing a sacred space, and as an aid to meditation. It helps one to access progressively deeper levels of unconsciousness. So I say to that, the sleeper must awaken. We're saying, so a mandala is a circle, showing how everything's tied together universally, and the mandala is used to teach sacred science or sacred understandings. See, we must remember that we are divine beings by nature. The physical is just this lower manifest or the lower dimension of, but we all are a part of the spirit and part of the whole, so we must look at things at that. So in order to teach that lesson, you got to teach it in a way that is on that level. So we're using the spiritual teaching tool to get across, once again in the right brain, the basic instructions from our ancestors. That's man, know thyself. Know thyself. So this is a mandala, and this is what the basic platform for how everything is tied in. Now this mandala is not exactly like the one on the lesson book, because the one on the lesson book, they're tied in together. On this one I just didn't tie them in together because we're going to be focusing on each individual symbol. So we're going to start with the first symbol. The first symbol, of course, everything starts from the center to the outer bounds. So the first symbol's what? The 7. And that's what we're going to be dealing with in this lesson, the 7. Or the circle 7, which the mandala deals with. Now we live in a 7 circle manifest as spiritual and perfected beings.